Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Heal Your Mind, Heal the World podcast. My name is Anne Marie Morales, and today I have a lovely friend with us today. You may or may not have heard of her. She is the beautiful Laura Eisenhower. She is an internationally acclaimed speaker, author, astrologer, and exopolitics specialist. And I'm thrilled to have her on my podcast today. Welcome, 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 Laura, to Heal
Hey
Your
there.
Mind. Hi
So good to be
there.
here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Yes. We've been friends or acquaintances, buddies for a few years now. And you've, had me on your podcast with Marissa, the beautiful divine Mother Earth, right? Time.
Hmm.
And you've been in this realm, publicly speaking about exopolitics, esoteric subjects for so very, very long. How did you end up coming into this realm of public speaking, of astrology, especially? I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Well, it's just been a long journey
Mhm.
of managing what I was awakening to and realizing very early on. And I was kind of assessing everything and just processing so much since I was a child in connection to how I kind of ended up in the family I did and what is the bigger picture reason, what is the just had a lot of questions. And sometimes it wasn't even about having questions, just energy would come through. And I was trying to just keep up with what it was communicating to me from higher self, from guides, from Ike. like, and
Yeah.
yeah. So, what really got me in the public eye was exposing the targeting that I went through to join a Mars colony. I was recruited to go um, off planet. That really culminated in 2006, where I sort of faced it head on, but the targeting started a lot earlier. I was told before birth. Uh, and it has to do with agreements with Eisenhower before this incarnation about carrying on this legacy. And so it made sense later on when I heard that, and I heard it from more than one source because there was such a strong affinity with communicating with him on
Mhm.
these levels throughout my whole life um, in regards to bringing about the truth. So in 2006, when the Mars recruitment was in my face, when these hidden sort of targeting efforts all of a sudden manifested as this person in front of me who wanted to take me off planet, which I didn't know was this even connected to a targeting until later, and it all began to make sense because I felt this attention on me and just this coercion um and frequency manipulation done remotely. And actually it was pretty soon after I met him that it all began to make sense. But when you're a mother and you're taking care of kids and you've got twins, not a stable partner, and you're not like able to fully even have a chance to catch a breath. But it all started to come in, like my intuition was catching up with everything and the dots started to really connect. So that is a whole nother thing in and of itself. And to kind of, answer the question without getting caught in all of that, when I got out of it and understood it to the full and what it meant for the future of humanity and all the different levels and layers to this and how that also relates to Eisenhower's administration, there was a time in which it made sense to go public. And I said a prayer. If this is really meant to be shared publicly, please make it so the timing is right. And I wasn't seeking a public position. I was mission oriented, always have been, but it wasn't about necessarily being in the public eye. It was about surviving and not being taken away. And if I could just do those two things, whatever the universe wants, I've just always been in surrender zone, like whatever you need, whatever, just use me. Not like use me, but allow my higher self, my agreements to really move through me and guide me, help me. And that was me committing to myself that I would see through distortion, that I would stay strong in the face of opposition, and I would take action when necessary. But it's hard just as humans, all of us, to be able to manage that in the face of people who seem benevolent or loving. Or so when I met that man, and they knew that we had a relationship and a connection in a past life, and we hit it off immediately. That was a really, really powerful manipulation. So I'm like, this has to be exposed. I had to go public with this. And my nervous system was not regulated at all. I was still in a major trauma loop about it all. Very much in survival energy, but it was a really great breakthrough because I knew I was a lot safer. And the amount of individuals that I ended up meeting, other whistleblowers, researchers, experiencers, after all that happened in 2010 when I went public, has been enormous, and it still continues today. And it's been quite a ride.
Yeah.
It's been nuts before the public thing, and then the public thing adds a whole nother dimension. It's got its pros and cons, just like managing this mission without being out there in the public has kind of benefits and feeling a little bit more shielded in that way. But I realized there's safety in numbers. We all need each other. This is a form of protection on top of however else, from the Christed energy and from God's source, how we're protected. So
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just in case whoever's watching the podcast doesn't realize, you are Dwight David Eisenhower's great, great, great
one great.
grand, one
One.
great. So great-granddaughter.
Yeah.
Okay. And so through that, you would consider yourself like a starseed? Do you believe that that's what you are? What would you describe your soul? Because you just said that you came in hearing things, feeling things, and this was all you knew, right? Or
Yeah. Oh yeah.
okay.
It's always been the case. And it always was overwhelming. Always. It was like I was living a double life. I tried to communicate it, and it just didn't go very far. I was always assessing. And then when I went into the school systems, I was one of those, kids that couldn't sit still, that was just out there in the multidimensional realms. I couldn't ground in my body at all. And I was doing a lot of, other sort of work. I had a really hard time getting into this vessel. So the starseed energy always resonated with me, that term. When we hear like indigo and crystalline or crystal kids and this and that. I feel that the divine template is within all beings, and star seeds, or those that might identify with these particular labels. And I don't mean identify like the gender identification. I identify as a, but that just really feel that in their being. Not to say that those that are identifying as even animals don't have a strong affinity to a spirit animal. It just always resonated with me. But I also knew that this isn't about being chosen. Okay, I chose this mission, yes. Star seeds, I don't feel like are chosen ones. I feel they are activators, right? And that's how I always saw it growing up, that I'm not here in a hierarchical way or because I've been chosen. I never really resonated with the whole term of all of that. But what I saw was, I'm here to activate something. Right off the bat, there's something in me that needed to remember, and I wasn't going to get away with anything else. Some people don't remember right away, and that doesn't matter as far as their worth or where they fall in the bigger picture spectrum of things. We all come from source, but because there's so many generations upon generations of programmings being passed down, ancestral patternings, the reversal grid energies and social engineering and world wars and just 26,000 years of really dark human history. And then we got galactic wars and everything else. The amnesia is so strong. So a lot of souls born, carry the galactic DNA or have starseed origins. They just have been so conditioned to not look in that direction that it's like it's not there, but it is there. So I always saw wherever I came in from, I had an opportunity to really sort of remember and be prepared and be yeah, just given an assignment that I would realize pretty early on. And this actually goes back to Eisenhower's administration, his relationship with Val Thor, and how he appealed to the Guardians. It was written in a book, and this Native American woman gave it to me, connected to communications with the Tijetans. And they said that the Guardians gifted the Eisenhower family with a descendant who would carry on the legacy. And I don't assume that's me because I feel everybody in our family has a mission, but in terms of the bigger picture galactic stuff and in terms of the negative alien agenda and this ascension window, that's what this particularly meant. That I would come in and I would be very aware of my mission. And so in that comes the responsibility of just being me, being my authentic self, and, seeking that kind of connection with people, knowing that everybody who finds that permission is now activated in their mission. And whatever they're up against that is trying to stop them from it is no different than what my path is like. And some have come in very awakened to their origins or their truth early on. And that's what I feel it is. The assignment really is, don't forget unity. Don't forget yourself. Don't allow anybody to take you away. Don't compromise yourself. All these things that we all, would get as instruction set from our higher self and our intuition. So that's why, it's no different than anyone else in that regard. But this whole system is designed and rigged to shut that up, to shut that down, to silence it, to medicate it. And so how I was being guided and in the memories that I refused to lose connection with, I refused to things that would take that away. And eventually stop going to school even. Anything that really made me feel like you're not going to take this away from me, you're not going to rip this away. I would step back and step away. Not always did that work. Not always was I able to. I carried stigmas and deep insecurities for a long time, felt really isolated, questioned myself, questioned my mission, went through, the ups and downs of that, the awkwardness of it all. But then there'd be some kind of sign or synchronicity to get me back and be like, yo, some sort of event even, or exchange of information from a very intuitive or psychic person that could see it. And it still happens to this day when I just feel like, oh, what is this all, where is this all going? There'll be something. But the amount of underworlds and distortions I've walked through has been a part of it as well. And this is the same, I feel, for humans. This is a collective awakening. This is a team. This is all of us. And it's not an exclusive team. It's the team that can acknowledge each other and take on the responsibility in order to be this resource for humanity. But once it really starts to switch on, now we're a global family. We are overcoming something so massive. And I just feel, Starseed, Earth Warrior, whatever you name it, there was a strong affinity with the Venusians and the Guardians and the Sophionic energy coming in order to do grid work and corrections through walking through underworlds and correcting inversions by allowing yourself to kind of die and let go and release and find your center again, and not get caught in all the hooks that society kind of throws at us, that can hijack our worth, our value, or leverage it and use it, and manipulate it into, some sort of system that might offer a paycheck, but is it really taking you anywhere? So yeah. And I just want to be a voice of that transparent kind of authentic path of, falling and getting back up again, the challenges of moving through the system and moving through life when that is speaking to you, and how to stay connected with it. And
Yeah.
what it means to lose it and have to find it again. I feel like this is something we all go through.
And that's one of the things that I really admire about you, is that you are very real. You're very real about what you're going through in your life. You teach from your own experience, which is something that I do, on my mission. I don't have very many filters. I just kind of let everything out there. But that's one thing that I've really appreciated about you, is that you share what you're going through. You don't you allow for us to see the journey that is Laura, the soul that is Laura. And so I just want to let you know, just in case you aren't aware of it, but I do, people appreciate that, and I appreciate the realness of who you are.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. I we are in the great transition right now. Astrologically speaking, we are moving into the Aquarian age. And as of recent, in my own awareness, and I just allow things to come into my awareness. And when I see things repeated over and over again, I pay attention to that. And one thing that's come into my awareness is the story of Chris Bledsoe, UFO of God. Have you heard of that?
I have, but I'm not completely well versed in any of it.
That's fine. So when in his he was visited by a lady, and in that prophecy from almost over a decade ago, when the star Regulus rises over the horizon and is in line with the eyes of the Sphinx, supposedly there's going to be a great revelation happening on the planet. What do you see astrologically? What are we going through right now, and how do you interpret, for example, just the wars that are happening right now? And give me your thoughts on all of that.
Yeah, there's so much to share, and
It's a lot, yeah.
I've been working on articles. It's hard to kind of condense it into a few sentences, but I just
Mhm.
want to say real quick, I mean, the agreement and the mission and coming in from, you know, some agreement in Eisenhower's administration to come into the family has also been to crush false narratives, um, and to really just lay it all out on the table without inserting too much of my, I'm right and you're wrong. And that's just not how I operate. It's like, let's have this conversation. Here's all the dots to connect. Here's what I've discovered. And the affinity, I think, with Eisenhower has a lot to do with the Greada Treaty. He did not sign treaties with the Greys, and I've spent my life trying to get to the bottom of it, and allowing, for the synchronicities to come forward to help um, provide the evidence and testimony of what really happened, and his alliance with Valthor, appealing, to the Guardians and setting up things like the White Hats. So I just wanted to add that. And the astrology is really powerful right now. The astrology impacts our DNA, what's going on inside of our bodies. I do presentations about the weaponized zodiac, how societal programmings want to keep us in the shadow side of these signs, and where, Saturn acts as a gatekeeper, and ends up, being sort of the fences and seals that have been in our DNA to block us from our multidimensional self and our capacity to be really, really creative with tapping into the creative imagination. What we've been dealing with is when we tap into the creative imagination, very often people run into archonic forces, entities. They feel very haunted by their past and haunted by what the future holds because their belief systems have gotten caught up, in the programmings. In places like the 10th gate, Iran and Iraq border area, where that gate is, has been a stronghold for draconian forces. It's a very powerful stargate that connects with Tiamat, and Tiamat exploded, and the fragmentation of humanity is very much the expression of that exploded planet that really held, the Sophionic energy in union with the masculine, So when we drop down into this lower density, 12 stargates, also the 13th came in. The 13th had to act as a remedial code, a remedial gate, and it's been activated now. And the whole idea of that gateway is that if things have gone too far and there's so much infiltration and the threat of this planet like kind of collapsing or having, history repeat itself in some sort of explosion, that there would be the 13th that usually it kind of hangs above, and the gateways link into that. It's like the 0 point unified field has it, in this particular planetary sphere. It's like the mother energy. It's the quintessence. It's related to the fifth element. The reversal grids put the dodecahedron platonic solid into reversal so that the inverted pentagram symbolic of the satanic And the dark matter reversal grids would be what's kind of running the show. So our astrology shows that. So when I do charts, I kind of go beyond just what I'm seeing in the chart. I look at, what's Saturn doing? What's the lunar energy doing? Because the Saturn moon matrix, the rings of Saturn, to me are that simulation or that gatekeeper that is impacting the lunar forces. So we see how it shows up in the world. Patriarchy, the 10th gate has a lot to do with the mind control of the masculine and the inversion of that energy to express itself through religious wars and not having that feminine principle, balance that out or integrate with that. And the integration of polarity is what switches on dormant DNA. So a chart in its weaponized sort of inverted version, not that everybody's living out the weaponized version, a lot of those programmings to create the vibration and frequency of inversion, is what the chart can help us to look at. But for the most part, people live a soul-centered life and high integrity. They're utilizing a lot of the higher qualities of the planetary alignments and might slip into shadow or raised in a bit of the shadow. But to me, the awakening is really about moving through that in a coherent way in order to get to the higher expressions of what every sign represents. So it's not about the sign qualities as much as it's about the elementals: earth, air, fire, water, ether. The 13th sign represents ether, which is the great purifier and alchemist. And it also connects with the electric magnetic energies. And yes, there's qualities, of course, to each of these water signs, Cancer, Mother, Pisces, Empath, Mystic, Scorpio, Transformer, Alchemist, and we could go through all the signs, but the inverted shadow properties of these signs are very encouraged in our society. So anyway, the current astrology is showing that the conjunction of Saturn in Aries with Neptune in Aries is basically dissolving the rings in a metaphorical way, but even astronomers have noticed that the rings of Saturn are actually dissolving. And what it's doing is it's breaking down the ability for the inverted system to hold together anymore. So it's manifesting as exposure, disclosure of so much that's been going on in the underbelly of the different pillars of society: entertainment industry, Vatican, government, just secret space programs, what's going on in underground tunnels, just the whole shebang. It's all out there. It's all out there. But of course, in these times, what could they possibly do to try and disrupt this? Well, if they can keep wars alive in this particular region in the Middle East and impact that Stargate energy, maybe, during this time of Saturn, Neptune, there will not be this dissolution. There'll be more loose. There'll be more creative channels being infected by the outrage and upset, and also the divide and conquer. So the planetary alignments are all geared towards ascension right now. They have been since 2010 when the sun started moving through Ophiuchus. Been prophesized, the Mayans, 2012, and it's been a very well-known window period for a lot of different things to play out: New World Order, ascension, and with that, false disclosure narratives and New Age programmings about ascension. So they know what is going to come. They have that astrological information. So the psyops and false flags are in alignment with these planetary configurations in order to hijack a growth period that humanity can move through, to disrupt it, to distract it, and to basically siphon it off into an artificial trajectory, an engineered timeline. It's engineered in the sense that it's created. It just doesn't erupt. It's not like it's an organic thing. There's organic elements to it as the earth is repairing itself and we're repairing ourselves. We face adversity. The way we handle it, as far as tapping into what's inside, is an organic response to adversity, and it begins to crush things. In a free will universe, it's part of our experience. It's a part of nature to lose ourselves and come back home again and maybe experience a mirror of the artificial until we can see that's not who I am. That is not what my creative energy wants. This is not my truth. So in that sense, It's inevitable that this is going to collapse. And that's what the planetary alignments are saying. Pluto, Uranus, Pluto moving into Aquarius, Uranus moving into Gemini, Neptune and Saturn and Aries is forming harmony with each other. Basically, this is giving us the activations and upgrades we need. This is why even especially this weekend with the Mercury retrograde and Mars conjunct the North Node, people are feeling like, whoa, like a natural detox is happening. You no longer have to just like go away for a long time and detox or get away from the system, even though that's still definitely recommended because it's chaotic right now. There's energetics that are coming in, things happening with the solar activity, things happening with the Schumann resonance and the planetary grid repair work that is creating a circulation of energy that is heightening and advancing humans, heightening intuition, heightening connection with the higher self signal. But for those that have been so addicted to the matrix and everything about the matrix, it's very, very difficult. So addiction spirals can be strong, or for people that have been empaths or very sensitive to everything going on that feel defeated, they can fall into that trap as well. It's not a one size fits all, but, how can we, work through the shadow side of it and embrace the best part of it all? And this is the thing with pharmaceuticals and the way that they've treated our kids. You can have a planetary progression or a transit hitting your chart, and you might have a couple of weeks where you do act manic or even bipolar. And the thing is, when you're diagnosed with something that's going to follow you the rest of your life, then you're not moving with the cycles of nature. You're not moving with the different planetary configurations and how they move through your being. There's no knowledge of that. And that's why, and you and I both have had a lot of exposure to the world of religion. That's why they wanted to silence it. And that's why the system turns it into a pseudoscience, because that level of self-awareness and knowledge would mean that, oh, okay, well, that's only going to last 2 weeks. Okay, well, let's just breathe through it. Maybe this is an important time to go on a retreat. Maybe this is an important time to spend time in nature or to detox, right? If we really understood this, we would know how to manage and work energy. And this is why it's important to understand the planetary alignment. So a war erupting during a very, very powerful time for the growth period of humanity, with the new moons, with the eclipses. Mars was square Uranus. We are right in that midst of the eclipse season when this war, broke out. Mars square Uranus is very impulsive, and then it's very much about violence and war. Even if there was an aspect for it, it would be that. But this is our opportunity as a humanity. Let's win the war on consciousness. We don't want to sit back and wait for this war to be won or lost. We have to understand that this gateway is a gateway within us. It represents our 10th strand DNA, our 10th chakra, our capacity to reconnect with that Tiamat, that source energy, the pre-fall consciousness, which holds the sacred union, where we as a humanity recognize the fragmentation that has been fed upon, the trauma, the divide and conquer, and we choose to love each other and work together. To me, that is going to clear that gateway and whatever's going on there much more than the programmed sort of trigger reaction response. That creates a lot more uproar and upset amongst one another. You're believing this guy, you trust that person, you're right, you're left. I mean, it's so carefully engineered and crafted to completely throw us off course. So anyway, the astrology couldn't be better. Question is, are we allowing that signal, ascension signal, that our higher self and nervous system can tune into, and the grounding cord of the plutonic energy and magnetic to work its circulatory energy in our system to create the alchemy, the upgrade, and the dissolution of the Saturn fences, frequency fences, and seals in our DNA to begin to have Saturn not be the gatekeeper, but the container for the multidimensional, which is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the solar plexus Aries. So again, to me, ascension's already happening. But the only leverage they still have, and the only thing they can really do now, is be like, oh, Epstein, go over here. Now let's just be in a trauma loop, because they just want to buy more time. They already know they lose this war in the bigger picture sense of it, but they want more casualties. They want more loot. They want more food. They want more of whatever to maintain that stronghold, because the 10th gate also corresponds with the 10 strands of draconian DNA, the 10 spheres that the draconian template has created to keep us locked into the 10, to not reclaim the 12 that connects into the 13, which is the full DNA capacity. Because if one gate is locked and there's reversal, then it's the humans that die off quickly through disease, rapid aging, and it's them that are harvesting and taking it all being this vampiric race, and their time is up. So, and that's why all this harvesting, siphoning, looshing, SRA, ritual abuse, trafficking has been the currency of how they've stayed in power. So it's just a matter of time. This should dissolve and clear, but to make this less uncomfortable on ourselves and more unifying and more transforming for the human race in the face of this horror and the suffering that's going on, let's love each other. Let's live our missions. Let's live our truth. And hold accountable the teachers, the doctors, and the people that are consenting in a gentle way so that they can begin to spot where this is happening in our own communities, trafficking, pedophilia, any form of abuse, any form of bullying, any form of indoctrination, social engineering attempts to continue to harm our children and future generations. Sorry, that was such a mouthful.
No, it's amazing. No, thank you so much. You're also one of the people that I know that has this divine flow of words, of energy, of knowledge that just it's a beautiful thing to witness. And I'm so glad that you're here talking to us about these beautiful times that we're in. And along with that, you've been doing this for quite a while. And can you notice a difference? Can you see, have you seen the evolution of your audience, for example? Is it more receptive? Can you see how things are becoming more and more in your face in terms of people understanding it, getting it, receiving it, being open to this information? How have you seen it over the course of your career doing this?
Oh, it's been a bumpy road. I mean, because of the censorship, losing my channels and trying to rebuild channels, and like nobody was showing up. I'm like, wow, okay, it kind of, I'm like, shoot, I'm like, well, okay. All the smear campaigns, all the dramas in the disclosure communities, being lumped into categories, being, this Libra that just wants to love everybody, and just like, why are, ugh, how is this happening? That I don't know. I'm being attacked by somebody's followers because they don't like me for talking to this person. I'm like, what is going on here? So there was a good like 5-year window of a lot of the Corey. I don't want to name names, and it's not about naming who did what or what did what. It's just during that time, where these individuals are out there. So I didn't mean to even mention him, but it was one, and then there was somebody else. And I did my best. I did my best to not get swept up into anything. Just wanted to appreciate everybody's information, see what dots connected. But it's like a lot of people, just jump on board, gossip or smear campaigns, or they act like they know you in comments. But I still was showing up, and I still kept doing what I was doing. But I was kind of falling apart, and it got obvious to people. And I don't like to be, publicly showing up when I'm feeling derailed, because it's not just that aspect of it. I had some long-term stalkers and harassers that I was dealing with, and then something that happened in the last 2 years, which was probably the worst attack, in kind of in my face kind of attack, where other ones were a little bit more invisible, or except for those stalker types. So that kind of took me out for a little while, and I've been trying to recover from it all, because my father was dying during this last attack, and it really broke me. And when I look back and I just realize, all the targeting in my life, robbed me a lot of, being a mother, and we were in survival the whole time. So I've been catching up with a lot of the time I need to really grieve and really express emotion. So I haven't been as active as I was when my channels were live, were before censorship, the before censorship. Now I have my channels back. So what I've been noticing is some people are like, wow, I haven't seen you in a while. And, there's still, the weird comments, and that's okay. But there's a lot of people that are like, now you make sense. When you first started talking in 2010, I just thought you were crazy. Now I really appreciate what you have to say. So that always makes me feel good, as the people that come around. Because, I'm the kind of person that even if, you were the worst person to me. I will totally forgive you. Once you're over that and you want to just be in my life again, absolutely. Because it is it is such a tactic that they use to they spend billions or yeah, trillions of dollars, Dan Cooper said, on trolls, on smear campaigns, on agents to harass and manipulate. Anything they can possibly do to derail and exhaust and defeat, they will do. And I'm aware of that. So, but it doesn't mean when you're feeling vulnerable and sensitive that it doesn't hurt. So I feel like this next phase for me is giving more voice to that, talking a lot about the astrology, feeling comfortable being on camera again, because I have to say, it's not easy to come back into all this. I've never stopped. I've always continued to do events. I've always done Rumble videos, even when my YouTube channel went down. But to do something on a regular basis, I'm taking my time with. But I have noticed, yeah, I mean, there's so many people who do podcasts. There's so many people who are, out there. My favorite thing that I see is when people make up, when people come together, when people can admit maybe they were wrong, when people apologize for being nasty, when people hold good space like you do for me to talk about how it's been, and we just get real. I feel like that is my favorite thing because that's the heart of it. There's so much information to constantly sift through, but the biggest priority for me is that we come together, that we heal, and that we get to know each other more, and we allow for these greater conversations with mutual love and respect instead of attack, belittling, ridicule, I'm right, you're wrong, competition, negative ego, because those are all the things that show up with the inversions and the inversion of the zodiac and how these signs or elementals have been put in reversal to keep us easily manipulated and fed on. That's what archons want. That's what dark agendas want. That's what harvesting and looshing wants to see. So it's been very frustrating to see it in an arena that knows that, but it shows how vulnerable we all are to these tactics being used. So my favorite part of all this now is that it's that leap into now it's time to hug. Now it's time to come together. Now it's time to embody and recognize that these wars and these gateways, this is a reflection of the health of humanity right now and what we need to do. We are not powerless. We are the solution because they wouldn't have an artificial timeline without our creative energy and what they siphon and steal and rob. And now that everything's being exposed, think of all the parents, think of all the children, think of all the teachers, think of how many people are going to remove themselves from watching, maybe the halftime at the Super Bowl, or taking their kids to a concert that has Illuminati symbolism, or, just jumps at the, dream of being an actor without considering the dark underbelly of, what might happen to your child if they were to get into that industry. What might happen if you leave your child at church? What if, and I'm not saying it's all evil either, but the purification is upon us. And all these astrological alignments are showing that the purification is to cleanse these pillars of society of the dark underbelly, inverted sort of satanic harvesting, siphoning, abusing, trafficking, ritual abuse, all the whole shebang, and allowing the true leadership and true integrity of what those pillars of society represent for a total global shift. And it's not going to be like a 1% or a hierarchy. It's going to be something completely different. So I love seeing this change happening and that people are a lot more comfortable talking about this. And as long as the division begins to shift into cooperation, I'm happy. And that's all I want to see. Sorry,
Yeah.
again, I'm like
Oh,
way too long of answers. And I'm just thinking about my process. So I'm like, it's been so weird ever since I got my channels back. And even though I haven't gotten some channels back. But yeah, I mean, I guess a part of me, honestly, I felt abandoned and like, people didn't care. They think Eisenhower sold us out to the Greys. And yeah, I've been mourning a lot and the loss of my father, my best friend, and just overcoming, attacks and just, my children being grown now and just what was lost and what I can't recapture. So it's been a hard couple of years, honestly, but I just love the now and seeing just the beauty of the friendships that have survived through this. And you're one of them.
Yeah.
So thank you for staying connected.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I stayed connected with you all throughout that whole thing, and I actually went through my own mini death recently, past few years, in many different ways. A big health concern, and a whole community that I thought loved me that ended up rejecting me. So I get it. I totally get what you're doing. But the bottom line, and I think what unifies us all, is that we are committed to our mission. You know, I'm committed to being a healer and to assisting people heal their minds, and you are committed to your mission on this earth. And one of the things from way back when, because you were one of the people that was in my realm at the beginning of my awakening to all the exopolitics, to the secret space programs, to these all these hidden worlds, you mentioned something called the bifurcation. And it was mentioned also in other, writers, and this kind of split between two worlds. First of all, I want to say that the dark right now is only serving the light. So all these beings that are trying so hard to hold on to the shadow, they're just exposing themselves more and more now, because the light is here, the light is one. And that's what we're seeing. That's why we're seeing all this ugliness coming to the surface, these deep, dark, hidden things. Even, the muggles, the normies are noticing government was never on their side. Medicine was never on their side. Religion was never on their side. So these societal structures that were put into place to harvest us, to harvest our source energy, to propel a false reality, they're all coming and crumbling down. But having said all of that, there are the beings that are going to dig their heels in, that want to stay in the dark. But there are the beings that are going to ascend. So can you describe for us this bifurcation, and what do you think it's going to look like?
Great question. Well, I mean, it's all about frequency,
Mm-hmm.
and ascension doesn't mean you don't dip down into shadow, into negativity at times. To me, it's like we're elemental beings. The nucleic acids of our DNA are elemental: earth, air, fire, water. The ether connects with the mitochondrial DNA, connects with the mother. The damage to the mitochondrial DNA that's been passed down generation to generation, the dark mother reversal grids, the mother wound, the masculine, the way the masculine and feminine has been modeled to us, the way it's been presented to us throughout the world, as far as very different than Avalon, where the hierogamic union, nourished the land and
Right.
like literally was connected to the grids, and how the people flourished. And that's all discombobulated to the point of just a lot of crime, a lot of divorce, a lot of deep, deep, deep wounds.
Yeah.
So
So
the
Laura,
bifurcation.
I just want to say something about that. You just mentioned the Avalon. And it has come in my work, in the work that I do, the energy readings that I do, etc. I do believe that there was a realm that we were a part of that contained the elementals, the dragon energy, the castles, the knights, the ladies. Is that what you're referring to?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. And there's, dragon energy part of the planetary grids. There are like 13 dragons in stasis around the Avery Henge and the Michael Mary lines, and that was a very, very targeted part of the planetary grid network in order to separate the Albion and Cathar body and see what happens. We see what happened in history with the Cathars and the Essenes, and but anyway,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
yeah, and so. And I also want to mention, when you were saying what you were going through, it's like so many of us, have been going through another round of all of that. And it's so beautiful. And that's the thing, that's the most important thing to me, is that we have each other's back, because it's difficult. And this is the priority for healing. And this goes back to this bifurcation, right? It's a frequency thing. The planetary grids, the original planetary grid network, based in 12 tones, 12 gates, and the 13, the remedial flame, that it represents, this healing and purification, and the corrections, the Sophionic corrections that also relate to the Venus transits, and that ether element coming out of reversal in order to create the circulation of purification, awakening the dragons in stasis. And I always, had the thought, and as a child, the rising of the elemental kingdoms, like what you just said, and that is what's being restored. We are the elemental kingdoms. We are the elemental beings. Our DNA, holding, these elements, have been dealing with the ramifications of that ether element not being able to create the alchemical shift for us to hold the crystalline or hold a more divine embodiment. It's been more about disease, whether it's mental illness, depression, something physical. All the elementals have dealt with contamination and toxicity as we see outside of us. Geoengineering, social engineering, the micro world, how it connects to the macro. It's all connected. So bifurcation to me is, are you doing that inner cleansing? Are you allowing the breath of life, the Holy Spirit, the quintessence, that fifth element of ether to create this solar transfiguration that like literally shifts the chakra energies and begins to open us up to the galactic chakras, where in our higher strands of DNA, the higher harmonic universes exist, taking us back to Tiamat, back to the avatar consciousness, and back to 0 point unified source energy of the original template, source, the Christ Sophia emerging from that. That's our true template, our true divine template. So life gives us everything we need to reclaim that, because we're a part of nature. Nature knows how to heal itself just like we know how to heal ourselves. It's innate in us. It's intuitive. So if the planetary system has been injured and infiltrated, the planetary alignments are going to naturally work on restoring and healing its own body. So the mother energy returning, the grid work corrections, or the planetary grid workers, and people who awaken are naturally doing that grid work because they're collapsing the control system inside themselves, which naturally has an impact on what's outside of them, which de-weaponizes things like 5G even, because we become the override frequency. So what's incredible is we experience everything we need in order to reclaim. It's wired into us. It's a part of cosmic and natural law. It's our birthright, and it's our God-given soul journey and mission that we all have. So when we allow ourselves to get closer to ourselves in the face of adversity, dis-ease, we correct imbalance, we purify when we're feeling contamination or toxicity, we make the changes we need to make in our life so that our living world reflects back to us the integrity that we hold, instead of compromising ourselves for the sake of a paycheck or for the sake of security, which never really is true security. Then we're really moving on an ascension timeline, because we're allowing our soul-centeredness to guide the way. And that's what ascension is. That is the trajectory of being soul-centered. It's not just some timeline you fall off or fall back on. It's something you might distract yourself away from, but it's always there. That's why, even though there's a bifurcation, I see that there's a bridge between the two splits and that they reconverge. Because any species that has gone so far off course, that might be like a gray now or an EBE or had to hybridize or come back and reclaim its genetic material, or learn how to be emotional again, or whatever that journey is for that particular species. There's so many different phases along the timeline of different ET species. One really powerful tarot deck is the Galactic Heritage deck by Lisa Royale. And it literally talks about different places on the timeline that a particular species exists. And if you get a card, say, that has to do with the Pleiadian past or a Lyran future, then you're connecting with something that the Lyran's healed that is ahead of things, so you become the activator. Or if it's the past, you're still processing something that might spark trauma in you that has Lyran origins. It's a really fascinating deck. I worked with it for years. The Greys, the Reptilians, all of it. And the thing is, we have a connection with all of it. We have a connection with everything. We have our own unique expression, but the 12 signs, the 12 houses, think of it, 12 strands of DNA, a 13th sign, the 13 being the mother energy reclaiming her body, but also the connection to the 0 point and the ether ruled by Chiron. Well, that's the greatest wound, is Chiron. So we have to heal the mother wound. We have to allow unconditional love to move through us. So anyway, When we can face these adversities and challenges and say, thank you, universe, this is exactly what I need to remember who I am, versus the doctor's going to solve it. I'm going to go on this. This is the trajectory they're putting me on. This is what the news is telling me. All of a sudden you've handed your creative energy over to somebody else and you're not getting to know yourself more. You're actually telling somebody else to tell you who you are and where it's going. And that's why all these pillars of societies and these systems have been a form of mind control, social engineering, no matter how well-intentioned the individuals in them are. That's why very often we meet that teacher that might have changed our lives, or love that doctor who is actually really wonderful, because they're not operating completely in that programming. They might be limited to a certain degree, but they might also save your life. They might talk to you like you're a part of the healing process, or they might tell you to shut up and it's up to them. So it's not like throw the baby out with the bathwater. But so to me, this bifurcation is not just like it's just going to split. I see a bridge between the two because there's so much transformation, so much shift, so much healing, that I just see people that are going down that trajectory are taking a little boat, a little tugboat, and going back to like, wait a minute, what's my soul telling me? What is source saying? What is my better judgment on this situation? This is what's worth it. This is why I'm in service. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm a cop. This is why I'm a teacher. This is why I'm a doctor. This is why, and I just feel that our grace and our compassion is everything also to help those who have been blackmailed, those who have been abused, those who have been threatened, to maintain these positions in society on more of a dark sort of maybe player level of it all, that we are that new earth, and we are the ones that are building this new earth, and we're inviting them to join us. And if we can actually hold hands and do it together, we can gut these structures and have something more meaningful emerge, or build something that's more in alignment with nature and the planetary grids, to begin to have more advanced civilizations and cities and things that are related to nature. So obviously we have a lot of work to do, but I feel like the dominoes have already fallen. And in a couple generations, it's going to be a whole nother world. But this particular time on Earth right now is to step up and have our voices be known, refuse to consent to anything that might be pushed on us, and let our leadership guide in a guardianship kind of way what our children are currently going through, how to protect them from all these different snags and attempts to rob them of their soul development, their love of their body, their comfort in however they are inside that body, whether they identify as more masculine or feminine, that it's not something they have to be confused about, but something that they are celebrated for expressing. I don't know, just a whole turnaround. And every single soul is born at a time where they're born with a particular zodiac map that shows this is your purpose, is to work with these patternings, to collapse the shadow side of it all, to move out of where you're limited and controlled by something outside of you, and to step up to the fullness of why you were born at this time and what your soul agreements are. If every single soul did that, we'd be golden. So it's not somebody else outside of us that's going to solve it. It's about nurturing the development of the soul, and allowing everybody in their uniqueness to embrace and step into their divine intelligence and the kind of being that they came here to be. Not getting a grade, not having to be this type, not being a failure because you're not learning calculus or going that route, that we literally are accommodating the uniqueness of intelligence of every single soul that comes in, and we help them to live their full purpose. That is what nature wants. That's why there's, it's not some hokey thing, astrology. It's a part of our organs. It's a part of our chakras. It's a part of our DNA. The problem is it's been weaponized, and it's been, so we don't have to necessarily understand that in order for this to take place. It's just every single piece of that pie shows a different sector of our personal lives, connected to every aspect of what it means to be human, and then everything about the world that we exist in. Every single house is a different sector of society. So when humans overcome, these inversions, they will reflect how this bifurcation is showing the achievement of that. What you collapse inside yourself, you collapse on the grids, and you collapse on a timeline level. So you will no longer be on an artificial timeline when you no longer consent to something that is using your creative energy to battery up an engineered artificial version that and so people going down that road, I think, are quickly turning around and will find that it forms like a heart instead of a split.
Mhm. Thank you so much. That is such a beautiful explanation. And I love how you integrated the human biology with the earth. And I mean, I say this all the time also, we are beings of this planet. The biology of the planet is our biology. And I loved how you described that split, but it actually means that we are going to come back together. And because we have to remember that there's, first of all, there's dark and light in everything. There's dark and light in every being. That is the variety that the human soul is capable of experiencing, the range of the emotions. And I love that. And, you know, we are a small slice of time, right? Our lives are just a very, very small slice of time. But I do believe that people like yourself, other people who are open and aware of the importance of the reclamation of the sovereignty, the reclamation of the solar plexus, of the collective of humanity, because I believe our solar plexuses have been just such collapsed, our sense of self.
And that's key right there.
Yeah,
If I don't want to cut you off, but I definitely want to mention something on that before we go.
go ahead. Go right
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, I mean, Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries is the end of the compartmentalized ego. It's the end of the ego that is representing an engineered persona, or, you know, a label that is not the full picture of who anybody is, right? So that identity, that ego, can express itself in the healthiest of ways. Obviously, ego is not bad, and I think most can agree. Negative ego, compartmentalized ego, engineered ego, not so great. So the Saturn not being the gatekeeper anymore, conjunct Neptune that's dissolving its ability to do that, is allowing Saturn to vibrate at its highest level, which is self-mastery. Then you got the Neptune, the creative imagination. The self-mastery is, can you be creative? Can your mind speak to your body things that allow it to heal? That's the North and South Node Virgo, North Node Pisces, but Neptune's ruled by Pisces. So there's a huge absolute transformation of all the earth elements connected with this. So the creative imagination, can you reach into your dreams and visions, and instead of allow your belief systems to get caught in the net of what is determined outside of you, and what is defined outside of you is what's ahead of you? It's nice to consider, but what about your input? What about your creative flow? What about your participation in this? Because we are so much more powerful and creative than we can imagine. We are writing the script of the future. So the solar plexus becomes a vehicle for the higher dimensional, the visions that we hold for the future to manifest through. And that is what is flipping this inversion and allowing Saturn, the law of structure, to now be in container of the multidimensional, of this disclosure of connecting with our galactic heritage, where the fences and seals are dissolving out of our DNA for us to fully reclaim the divine human and the full capacity for us to hold much more of our DNA than we've ever been able to before. And yeah, you know, and the ego persona, the 3D matrix, the 3D is the first three chakras. It ends with Mars, right? The rest of it, you can experience love and soulmates and this and that. But the reason there's such an epidemic of divorce or discord or relationships falling apart or things falling to the wayside, and that endurance, you know, takes a lot for people to achieve and experience, is because there's some kind of trigger event where, when it's time to get closer and move through an initiation and work on something together and create that alchemical shift by working on ancestral patterns or societal programmings, most people run away. Or most people just stop somewhere and say, I just can't do this, it's too hard. Or they get into an ego gratification thing, and run off maybe with somebody else, or the collapse of ego into low self-worth, and victimhood, and allowing narcissists or abusers into your life. And we have to address all of this. And there couldn't be a more potent time. And so I'm excited.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for mentioning all of that. And I agree with you. In my work, what I'm seeing is that there are people who are, I would say they're tying off all the loose cords. And so they've chosen to become the souls that heals entire ancestral lines. A lot of my clients, I'm finding that just recently happening. And it is, and it makes sense. You know, we're here at the end of this spiritual season. We are here to be the foundation for the new age, for the new consciousness, for the new patterns, and to awaken the DNA within us. So many times I've, I get the imagery or I've channeled that they're just switches. They're just switches that now we're able to reach and start to switch on. So yeah, we are so poised to create this beautiful new version of humanity, this new version of Earth. And that's what we're all here to do, I think.
Totally. And it's the most natural thing too.
Yeah.
And the one thing that gets people is fear, is learning something outside of you that causes that second guessing, that doubt, and that dismissal of what your body, what your intuition and your higher guidance is trying to show you. And this is the whole nature also of, epigenetics. Mercury, how does the mind talk to the body? What is it switching on? And where can we catch ourselves when it's actually switching something off and allowing something to fester or get internalized to the point of, creating cancer, just dis-ease, any form of it. And that's why it can also help us to unwind and rediscover ourselves instead of being, a doom thing. It's all turning around. It's all within our reach. And you're already doing it. So many are already doing it. So I appreciate you so much. And I can't wait to have you back on my channel. And yeah, I know I gotta go, but thank you so much for, having me.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And could you kindly tell everybody, where are you sharing your wisdom nowadays? You mentioned some channels were taken away. What are
Oh yeah,
you?
yeah. Well, I do have my YouTube back, which is
Mhm.
great. And I'll be posting there a lot more, but Substack is a really good place to find me. lauraeisenhower.substack.com. So Laura Eisenhower, one word, .substack.com. And it's on the homepage of my website, cosmicgaia.org. And yeah, when I was talking about the channels, it was that window of all that being down. So it's a great sign. A lot of people have gotten their channels back. And yeah, I'm just going to continue to flow with all of this and feeling, really good. The more I talk about it, the better I feel about, what's ahead because it's so real. This is what it is. We have the capacity to break down and dismantle dark weaponry by overriding it in our frequency. And the only thing that would divert people into a bifurcation away from that is just, getting, caught, in the trap. But it's all very temporary. The minute you have that breakthrough, you're back on track. And it's not, something you join. It's something you allow. It's already in you. So important to remember.
That's beautiful. It's true. We all hold everything within us, all the knowledge, all the wisdom that it's just that we're removing the blocks to love's presence, the blocks to our intuition, the blocks to the truth of who we truly are. So anyway, Laura, thank you so much for being here. I love you.
I love you too.
Soul sister. And my name is Anne Marie Morales. You can find all my offers at ammhypnotherapy.com and see you all soon.